Hi, I'm delighted to be here. Jonathan London, president and founder of the Improved Performance Group. We're going to be reviewing 5 key elements of real selling that are critical to your success. In this order: DISC, which is all about creating a comfortable selling environment for you and your prospect; access to power, which is getting to the right person who will get the most from your offer; SPRI.N.G dialogue, which is understanding, qualifying the opportunity before you make a presentation. Fourth aspect we'll be discussing is presenting your solution in relation to what the client cares about through the SPRI.N.G dialogue. And then finally, handling objections throughout the selling cycle. Before we start, I just want to give a backdrop to selling. A lot of us get caught up in our technology and what we're selling, and I always like to preface everything we're doing by talking about that nobody wants what we're selling. What they want is if it helps them get what they want or avoid what they don't want. So if we can keep that in mind, if we can keep in mind that we are a means to an end, we are a facilitator to help people get what they want and avoid what they don't want professionally and personally, it raises our game and gives people a higher level of understanding of what we can bring to them. So let's talk about DISC. DISC, we're getting out of your own way. DISC is huge. It's all about creating a very comfortable environment for the people that you're trying to sell to. And as we all know, the more comfortable we get with somebody, the more open we are, the more receptive we are, the more we receive what they say without skepticism, the more we'll tell them because we trust them more. And we're working and communicating with them in the way they like. It's a form of mirroring. If anybody's ever studied mirroring from a sales perspective, there's all different kinds of aspects of it. And if you think about mirroring as a way of speaking somebody's language, there's 3 elements to speak somebody's DISC language. The first is pace. Are you moving fast, slow? Are you going at the same pace as them? The second is their tone. Are you friendly? Are you formal? Are you serious? Are you laid back? And then finally, the third element of pacing or working in a DISC way is information. How much information are you giving them, and how do they like to receive it? So if we can get comfortable with those 3 elements, we can then pace ourselves and mirror people in a behavioral way, which will make them really comfortable with us. So here's what it comes down to. If you look at this graph, you've got on the top side, you've got people who are very work and task oriented, and then on the bottom you've got people who are more people and relationship oriented. And then in conjunction with one of those focuses, you have people who are either more assertive and faster paced or less assertive and slower paced. So in the upper right hand quadrant, somebody who's more assertive and faster paced and is focusing on work is a dominant behavior style. We'll talk about that. If you have somebody who is assertive and faster paced but more people oriented, then we have an influential behavior style. And those 2 styles have things in common that are very good to sell to. On the other side, we have people who are less assertive and slower paced. If they're task and work oriented, they're called conscientious or analytical. And if they're less assertive and slower paced but very people and process oriented, they're called steadfast. Each one of these behaviors has a different pace, tone, information needs, different goals, and we're going to go over those for you very quickly. So to bring you back to your own DISC profile, depending upon where you landed, you have your segments can either be very high or very low. Anything in the 6th or 7th segment means that's an aspect of your behavior that you're using a lot. Anything that's in the 1 or 2 means you're not using that part of your behavior very much. And then anything in the gray area means you're balanced with it. So if you want to review that, go to page 3 of your DISC profile, and you'll have a reminder of where your strengths and weaknesses are in terms of your behavior. The first behavior style is the dominant behavior style. Their emphasis is on shaping the environment by overcoming opposition. They're very driven. Jerry Jones, Larry Ellison, Steve Ballmer are all examples of that. The second style is the high I or influential. The emphasis is on shaping the environment by influencing or persuading people. I have Marilyn Monroe up there, Ronald Reagan, JFK, Oprah Winfrey, all very persuasive behavior styles. The third style, and the more common style than the D and the I, is the steadfast, which is a focus on cooperating with others, real consensus. A lot of great coaches have been like that. Derek Jeter, Cal Ripken, Joe Torre. Their strength is to gain consensus and cooperation and build teamwork to get the result. And then the final is the conscientious, and their focus is on working within existing circumstances to ensure quality and accuracy. These are perfectionists. And some people like Bernanke or Alan Greenspan, people would say Einstein, which is a pretty obvious one, very focused on quality and detail. Each style is wonderful, each style is successful, each style has its strengths and weaknesses. At the same time, each style gets along better with some than others. So as a summary, we want to keep in mind pace, tone, and focus. This slide is a real nice summary for you to use in terms of what each style's pace, tone, and focus is. And I've also added that each style has goals and fears. And I don't want to get too psychoanalytical about this, but styles of behavior are associated with things they want and don't want. So for example, the dominant behavior style has a very firm and direct tone. From an information perspective, they just want you to net it out. They don't want you to get too detailed or too ponderous. Ultimately, when they make decisions or try to do things, it's all around increasing results, expediting the result, and getting more control and power. And they also don't want to be taken advantage of or fail. So these aren't conscious things for people, but they're there and they influence how people decide. Another example would be the high I or the influential. They're fast-paced, but their difference in tone is they're very friendly and talkative and outgoing. And from an information perspective, they like the big picture. They want it to be positive, and you can be more descriptive. And they're also very results-oriented, but more important, they want to have popularity and recognition more than any other style. And their concern is if they don't succeed or they lose influence or people stop recognizing them. Now, just as in a contrast, if you look at the high S behavior style, slower paced, very comfortable people to talk to. They want a lot more information that's involved in process and how things get done. And notice their goal doesn't have to do with the results, but it has to do with safety and stability and security. And what the fears they have are changing in an undescribed way, instability, and any level of conflict. So you have to really be very calm with them. And then finally, the high C is our analytical. So they're more analytical, they're more logical, their tone is a little bit more removed and cynical and distant. They want lots of data. The more independent, the better. They're driven for perfection, and they just don't want to make an error. So just being sensitive to the pace and tone will trigger you in terms of how much information, and then just be conscious of what they want from a goal and fear perspective, and you'll ultimately be able to adapt your style or speak their language. And that's the important part. It's not just recognizing, but it's speaking the language. It's adopting the pace, tone, and information so that people resonate with you and start feeling more comfortable and more open with you. So that's DISC. It's relevant internally and externally, and it's something you should be conscious of to create a better selling environment. The second step is gaining access to power, also known as prospecting. It is the most important thing we have to do as salespeople. There is nothing more important that salespeople have to do than have a really high quality pipeline. We want a lot of opportunities in our funnel, in our pipeline. We want them qualified. We want them to be opportunities that we can win versus just something we're busy with. The bottom line to having that is we have much higher levels of confidence, so we behave properly. We don't chase bad business. Our linearity means we're consistently making our number versus it being a roller coaster. And it just puts us in a better spot. I was raised on a pipeline of 3 or 4 to 1. So if I had a $250,000 target per month, I needed $750,000 to $1 million recognized as opportunity that I had proposed. Now the irony of all of this is it's so important, yet salespeople hate doing it. And they hate doing it because it's the hard part of the job. There's a lot of rejection. So the system we're going to give you is going to get you better results, but it's no substitute for hard work, and it's no substitute to a commitment to doing it. So here's the approach we're going to give you. The first approach is you got to know where you want to go in the first place. So you guys are great in the educational and state and local. It's a big market, but what other applications do you want to go after? There's a big emphasis now in doing enterprise. So who do you want to go after? What type of enterprise accounts? What kind of applications within the enterprise? Secondly, who are the people in the account that are going to be intrigued by talking to you. It's not just the IT people, but salespeople can benefit, finance people can benefit, training people can benefit. A lot of different people can gain value by your offer. They may not be the ultimate decision makers, but they will absolutely be the people who can influence or give you guidance or drive a project. Third is getting to people is more difficult today than it's ever been. Cold calling is something you should avoid at all costs. You should always have a legitimate or warm reason to call. We're going to go through that quickly. But there's the internet is our best friend in terms of giving us reasons to call, and we'll talk about how you can leverage that. Finally, not finally, but as a step 4, you have to try different ways to reach out to people. You can use the phone, you can use email, you can use invites, you can use LinkedIn, you can use social events, you can use trade shows. There's all different ways to reach out to people that will get their attention so you can have a meeting with them. 5 and 6 is we better be good in getting around voicemail and gatekeepers. People screen their calls better than ever. Voicemail is the biggest gatekeeper. Executives have gatekeepers whose primary responsibility is to keep salespeople away. So we need to know how to navigate around those, which we'll talk about. The 7th step is you finally get somebody to listen to you or open up your email or look at your letter. There are 3 standard pieces that have to happen. The first is some credibility, so people respond and are open. The second are benefits that they find relevant to their situation. And the third is the asking for the appointment, which we'll discuss. If there's any place in the selling process you've got to be good at objection handling, it's in this stage. There's a lot of objections. People send me some literature. I'm happy with my current vendor. I don't have time. Anything to get away from you. So we got to really be good at that. And then finally, appropriate follow-up. Different studies say it takes 8, 10, 12 attempts to get to somebody. And that's an average. So what that means is some people might take 50 attempts over 2 months, where somebody take 1. We need to understand that we have to make this a consistent effort. So let me give you a little bit of overview on each of the steps. The first is, what are your strengths? What do you bring to the table? What industries, demographics, what applications have the best need for your offer? Historically, who have you sold to? So you have a lot of references, and you can reference them in the customer column. Who would be the partners who can introduce you? So before you do anything, build your business plan. Look at your territory, look at your assignment, match it up to your offering and your company and your history, and decide on 2 or 3 industries or verticals or applications that you are best suited for that will have the most relevance. The analogy I like to make is if you're starting out in a 100-yard dash, you're starting out 40 yards ahead because you're selling to the places that have the most value and the most need for your solution. Don't be everything to everybody. Second is you can't cold call anymore. You have to have legitimate reasons to call. So some examples of legitimate reasons are a company's expanding, or they just got some funding, or somebody just got promoted, or they just merged, or you see that they've got a history of doing something. There's a legitimate reason that you're calling them at the time you're calling them. The most legitimate reason is referrals. Studies show you have a 40 to 80% chance of getting to somebody based upon the strength of the referral. The question is how do you feed yourself with this stuff? How do you keep yourself current? And that's where the internet comes in to help us. It's our best friend. Using things like Google Alerts, or going to blogs, or getting LinkedIn, using LinkedIn groups, finding RSS feeds for things that are happening so that every day or every week you open up, you turn on your computer, and it's telling you here's what's going on in your account. Okay? Referrals are the #1 way. I would urge everybody to join LinkedIn, even Facebook, any kind of social media. I would urge people to go through their old Rolodexes if they even know what that is, and if they have one, and just start looking at people and say, can they buy from me or can they refer me? IPG has been in business for 16 years. We've sold some of the largest corporations in the world, and most of it's been based on referrals or triggering events or current events that we can use. So take some time to say, who do you know and can they refer me? I reduced my startup time as a business from 12 months to 45 days by doing this. Different ways of reaching out to people. You know, the voicemail and the email are the common ones, although email people don't really know how to use. We'll talk about that. But standard things like letters or using evites or inviting people to trade shows or using webinars. Different ways of reaching out get people to respond in different ways. People respond differently to different things. So don't just try the phone. Try to mix things up. Put together a mixed media campaign that you can use so that when you're trying to get to people 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times, it's a mixture, and that alone will increase your odds of getting to people. Getting past gatekeepers. Well, the biggest gatekeeper is voicemail. What do you do when you get voicemail? Well, here's a couple of tips. First tip is leave a short and sweet message that leaves some intrigue. So if I was trying to get to Joe Jones and I was referred by Craig Smith, I would say, hey Joe, Jonathan London, Craig Smith suggested I reach out to you. If you have a moment, here's my number. Otherwise, I'll get back to you tomorrow. Don't expect him to call me back, but I hope that referencing somebody will leave enough intrigue that when I call tomorrow, he'll reach out to me. Hey, Joe, this is Jonathan London. Just saw you about your promotion. Wanted to talk to you about some capabilities we have that are going to accelerate what you're trying to achieve as the new VP of Sales or new CIO. Here's my number if you have a chance. Otherwise, I'll get back to you. So it's a little bit of a teaser, a little bit of a message that hopefully gets their attention. You can also zero out and get to the receptionist and ask for a transfer to the person, and now you have an internal transfer, so people might be more likely to pick up the phone. Or you can ask for another department and then get transferred from a department. So there's all different ways to get past the gatekeeper that's a voicemail. The individual gatekeeper, the executive gatekeeper, well, if you have a reference, you can't be gatekeeped, right? Or you call when they're not there, so you call early or late. Or you email, because a lot of executives are checking their emails. So there's different ways to get around the gatekeeper. In all cases, you're ethical, you're professional, there's no lying, and you're above board about what you're trying to do. We just talked about voicemail. Now the moment of truth. You got somebody to pick up the phone, or you got somebody to listen to your email, and there's three things that got to happen. First is you got to say something that creates immediate credibility and respect. So the referral does that, or referencing the current event, or referencing a competitor's name that you've worked with. Second thing you got to do is give them a couple of reasons or benefits that are really powerful to them, that have something to do with them at the time you're reaching out to them. And then finally, you got to close for action. You got to say, I'd love to meet with you, I'll be in your vicinity, etc. You know, standard types of closes. So here's an example. Good morning, Mr. Jones. Ms. Jones, my name's Sam Smith. Nigel Cummins suggested I call. Nigel suggested I call because of the work we've done for him and how our solutions helped increase revenue, eliminate waste travel, and improve the effectiveness of the training. So obviously I'm calling somebody who has training and as a primary responsibility. If I was to call a VP of Sales, I would say I want to talk to you about how our technology can improve your forecasting accuracy, make your salespeople much more effective and responsive to your largest competitor, and ultimately be in front of more people so that their messaging can be more greater volume and with more impact. Love to talk to you about how maybe we can help you. Different messaging based upon who you're talking to. The key is taking what you have and relating to them in terms of how it's relevant to them. You're going to get a lot of objections when you prospect. Just happens. So the best way to handle objections, folks, is to anticipate it before it comes up. So for example, if I was trying to call an executive, I've tried 15 times, and finally on the 16th effort, he picks up the phone or she picks up the phone. Well, obviously their objection is going to be, I'm busy. So what I might say is, hello, Mr. and Ms. Jones, my name is Jonathan London. I know you're extremely busy, so I'll be very brief and to the point. I'm trying to ease the burden, take the objection away. Or if I'm calling a client who I know is using a competitor's equipment, I might call them and say, hi, Mr. and Ms. Jones, my name is Jonathan London, and I'm calling you because I know you're currently using so-and-so. and I'm taking that objection away from them. I'm trying to diffuse it so that I have an opportunity to give them my message. Now, in most cases, you're not going to be able to do that. So what you need is a process, and the process is very simple. You acknowledge whatever they say, and then you ask or say something that gets you into a conversation. So if somebody says, well, I'm very happy with my current vendor, you say, that's fantastic. I'm really happy when I call people who are currently using our technology. Who are you using, and what is it that you like about it? Or they're a great vendor. We have a lot of clients who use us as well, and what they find is that by bringing both of us in, they have the best of both worlds because we can complement the investment you've already made. Do you have some time for us to meet? We have no budget. Mr. and so-and-so, that's not a problem. In fact, it's usually best to talk when you don't have budget because then we can get ahead of the curve and be a little bit more strategic in the conversation. So the key is don't freak out about it. Don't get defensive about it like we do mostly as salespeople, but try to leverage it by asking or saying something so that you can get to the point to say, can we get together? Can we meet? And let's see if there's a fit. And then the last step, everybody, is you got to implement the plan. So a summary, don't go after business that doesn't fit. Find the industries and applications that you're best suited for. Constantly feed yourself referrals or legitimate reasons to call. Again, Google Alerts is the best. Just go into Google Alerts, put in the keywords that you're looking for. The best time to prospect is early and late for many reasons. One is when executives will be at their desk. Secondly, if you do it from 8:30 or 8 to 9:30 and 4:30 to 5:30 or 6, you have the rest of your day to sell. So it's a fantastic time to do it. Put it in your calendar. Like when you open up your Outlook, you're going to see appointments with clients and personal appointments. Put appointments in your calendar that say prospect, prospect. And never deviate. You always prospect. And if you use the methodology we're telling you, focus where you have legitimacy, feed yourself with current events and referrals, use compelling statements to get appointments, and be consistent about it. You will fill your funnel with wonderful appointments and you'll be very happy. Well, congratulations, you got the appointment. Now what do you do? Well, most salespeople love talking. It's kind of like why I like training. It gives me a chance to talk with a rapt audience. The problem is we talked without context. We're excited about our product. We feel confident about talking about it, but we tend to go off and present or talk about it, and we don't have the context or the understanding of what the client really cares about. So S.PRI.N.G dialogue is an approach. It's a structure that will get you the information you need to understand what the client wants and how you have to present your solution. The analogy I like to make, it's like a GPS. Like all of us, if we're going somewhere we've never been before, we'll use a GPS or a map. Why? Because we don't want to get lost. And if there are detours or obstructions, we want to make sure we get to where we want to get to. Well, the destination we're going on with the people we're trying to sell is getting from the beginning of the meeting to the end of the meeting and trying to find out the things we need to know and to try to influence them enough so that they'd be ready to take a next step with us. And so S.PRI.N.G is your map. It's your GPS that no matter what kind of detour a salesperson or a prospect takes us on, we're going to get to the destination we want, which is the information that we need and the points that we need to make within that dialogue. So what's going to happen if you use this process? Well, you're going to know more. And the more you know, the more you can sell. In fact, the more you know, the bigger your solution can be. The more we focus on the priorities of a client and the needs of a client, the more we differentiate ourselves and the more power our solution has. It's not watered down. The S.PRI.N.G dialogue also allows us to talk, converse, question, and every once in a while plant seeds. A seed is a little pitch, it's a little vignette, it's a little story that's shared within the context of the conversation. So we're really pitching while we're dialoguing. And so we're giving people the information we need without having to go into the deck. And then I think most importantly, it gets us the information we need so we can put together effective strategies and presentations so that our close rates go up. We win more business. And then the other thing the S.PRI.N.G dialogue will do for you, everybody, is it'll tell you when you should walk away. we can't win every deal, and not every deal is suited for us. By asking right questions, we'll know whether we have a real opportunity or not. So let's go through the S.PRI.N.G dialogue. S.PRI.N.G dialogue starts with the situation start. There's some real basics. You thank them for the appointment. You confirm the time. You state your objectives, that you want to understand what their priorities and needs are, and allow them to ask you some questions and maybe build up some rapport. So some examples are: appreciate the time. Before I tell you everything about us, I'd like to know a little bit about you. I know ultimately we're going to have to talk about pricing configurations, but in order to do that, love to find out a little bit more about what you're trying to do. Hi, Mr. or Ms. CIO. Sure, there are a lot of imperatives you have. Would like to understand what those imperatives are and how our solution can benefit you in terms of driving those imperatives and ultimately allow your company to have the success you want. Would it be okay if we did that? The other thing you might want to do also, everybody, is give the elevator pitch. So before we go into the questions, I would like to give you a 30-second overview of who we are, what we bring to the table, so that when I ask you the questions, you'll have some backdrop or context to answering those. So that's the situation start. Priorities is just another way of saying, Mr. or Ms. So-and-so, what are the most important things that you're focusing on? So it can be as simple as, so Mr. or Ms. CIO, what are the 3 or 4 top priorities you have for 2011? No matter what they tell you, you just ask them to put them in order of importance. So a CIO might say, well, we're implementing a new ERP solution. We are going to be putting in a video and streaming for training, and we're actually going to be upgrading to some new Microsoft platforms. Fascinating. A lot on your plate. Of those 3, is any one more important, and why? I'd like to understand that. Or you go to somebody and you know they're going to be putting in a video solution, so you would say something as, well, in relation to your video streaming project, can you share with me what the top 3 or 4 priorities are in making sure this project is successful? And whatever they tell you, you say, fantastic. Of those 4, can you put those in order of importance, because I'd like to understand them in that order. And we continue the conversation. A very sophisticated way, if you like Dancing with the Stars, you'll like this slide, is to state what they might be. So, Mr. So-and-so, we work with a lot of people in your position. And what we're hearing is that their priorities are to increase revenue from training, to eliminate a lot of money that's being spent on doing it the old way on road trips, and to actually have the technology drive the business initiatives so that training enables the organization. Are these your priorities, or do you have others? And even if they're not their priorities, the person understands that you're a pro, that you're better and different than the other people that they might be talking to. That, along with the fact that they've given you the meeting because of a legitimate reason, that along with the fact that you're relating to them hopefully through a DIS style, is all creating an environment where they are unconsciously or consciously opening up to you. Okay, well, now we want to dig in. So we want to understand these priorities from a business perspective, an operational perspective, a technical perspective, a financial perspective. So here's a nice series of questions. And then finally, we want to plant seeds within that conversation. So a seed, again, it's a way of saying something about VBrick that's relevant. It's bringing in something in, and without going off on a 15-minute pitch. It's taking what you bring in that's unique and bringing it to the conversation. So it's something like, well, it's funny, a recent customer did this. Is that something like you're looking for? Or, we just announced the integration with the whole Microsoft OCS Now Link platform. Is that something that's critical? Or they're talking about executive messaging. You would say, well, we just have a capability, and we just announced the new ability to record the messaging so anybody can see it on time. And you're planting seeds while the conversation's happening. Now, the next slide is way too busy. It betrays every rule of questioning, but I want you to have them because these are really good questions to prevent you, A, from going into the heavy-duty technical questions, and to get a much broader understanding. So I'll just give you a couple of them. Somebody says, well, we need to put together a video solution. It's a number one priority. Well, fantastic. Can you tell me more? Why is it so important, and why now? And what's driving it from a business perspective, and is there any particular executive sponsor? And what is the link between what you want to do with the video and streaming and the business goals? And where are you in this? And what are the greatest pressures you have to deal with in getting this done? And then again, every once in a while, you bring in what you're going to be bringing to the table. So now we're at the needs section. The needs section, everybody, is primarily to find out the information that people don't like telling you. It's to find out what you need to know about budget, competition, process, criteria. It's all the things that people have to trust you a little bit more to tell you. And I will share with you unequivocally that if you do a good job preparing for the dialogue, asking the right questions, relating to people in their dish style, interesting them with your seeds and questions, when you come to ask them about budget and process and competition, they are going to be more open to telling you. There's a tendency for salespeople to do this a little too early. I would urge you not to. Obviously, if the opening's there, take it, but just condition yourself to ask these things to earn the right and put yourself in a better position. The last part of our process from the acronym SPRING is the GAIN. And this is the most important question. It's also the most sensitive question. Because if you remember going back to the original, one of the original slides, people only do things if it helps them get what they want and avoid what they don't want. So what would somebody get by putting in a great solution? Well, is it a promotion? Is it prestige? Is it money? Is it less hassle? You know, can they picture for themselves and for you what it would mean? So by asking them in a polite, deferential way and imaging that and associating that with you, you're creating a bond and a relationship that they are, again, emotionally want to work with you. And I don't want to get too crazy on this, but it's a really critical aspect of somebody being tied to you, not only from a desire to work. And then the last part of the SPRING dialogue is putting them on a track, recommending 1, 2, 3 steps that are relevant to their buying process or relevant to what they want to do and put you in a better position. So maybe it's coming to headquarters. Maybe it's talking to a reference. Maybe it's doing more digging deeper into their requirements. Maybe it's talking to some of the other people involved in the process. So don't rush to the demo. Don't rush to the proposal. See if you can build up some more momentum, some more relationships, some more information, so that when you do the demo and the proposal, there's more substance to it. Okay, now we're going to do the presentation. Video is a sexy thing to sell. Streaming, sexy as could be. There's a tendency to show off the technology and not relate it to the application. My experience, having been in this world for 16 years, is you're doing yourself a disservice by not presenting your solution within the context of a structure and a flow and simulating, emulating the application that they want to use the technology for. So what's the flow? Well, the flow is, first of all, if you have somebody in the account who wants you to win, let them coach you. Put your presentation in front of them and ask them for some feedback. Now let's get into the presentation. Steps 2 and 3 are interchangeable. You might want to say to the client, here's the agenda, here's what we want to achieve, and I'll go over what that agenda might be. And then you might introduce your people and have them introduce their people. Steps 1 and 2 are interchangeable. As a reminder, I would ask you to introduce your people as if you were introducing a guest speaker. So hi, this is Sally Smith. Sally's been with the company for 12 years. She has worked on the largest implementations in our company, including she has technical background, and make them so valuable versus just giving the title. A lot of people don't do that. Okay, the next step in your agenda would be, Mr. and Ms. So-and-so, based upon our spring dialogue or based upon our conversation, here's what I understand your current situation is and what your priorities are and what you're trying to achieve. Is that still relevant? Has anything changed? Now, more likely than not, folks, when you do a presentation or a demo, there's going to be different people in the room. More often than not, those are going to be people of power, and you want to make sure that they buy into the agenda. So once you've gotten that, then you want to give them an overview of VBrick. You don't want to just go into the demo. You want to give them the relevant background to what you bring to the table, your financial stability, your presence, your number of solutions, overview of a philosophy and approach, because you want them to have that when you do give the demo. Now, I think you start demonstrating and delineating the capabilities, and as much as possible, you do that. Finally, then you want to show them an ROI. And TCO stands for total cost of ownership, and TTV stands for time to value. I'm asking you to spend $500,000 based upon what you told me you're trying to achieve from a technical and financial perspective. We can save you $2 million. We can avoid or defer another $1.5 million, and we can help you make the $4 million that you talked about. So the SAM approach to cost justification: saving, avoiding and deferring, and making. I'm asking you to spend $500,000. I'm bringing you $8 million back, and that's only in year one. So if you extend that over 3 years, we now got $24 million for a $500,000 investment. Time to value is you'll start seeing that return in 2 months. You're not going to have to wait 12 months. You're going to start seeing that return very quickly. Okay? The last 2 steps are references, and again, references can be brought up front. You can bring those up front in terms of logos, in terms of your corporate pitch, but other clients in similar scenarios who they might want to call. And then again, next steps. What are the next steps? Don't leave the presentation or demonstration without a next step that ties to getting them to buy from you. How do you apply your solution? Well, one of the tools we gave you is you take their priority, on-demand training, you take the feature or solution, and you start brainstorming what the benefit is from a technical perspective, a business perspective, and a corporate perspective. So it's a nice way of flushing out and broadening what the value is of your solution based upon their priority. Don't keep it to just the technical benefit. Extend it to the business and to the person or the company. Presenting these styles, you have to be chameleon-like. So just remember, if you're presenting to a D, net it out. If you're presenting to an I, be very positive. Sex sells with the high I. Make it sizzle. If you're presenting to the S, don't get too crazy about the new stuff. Make sure you tell them how safe and stable it's going to be. Talk about experience and reliability and predictability. And if you're talking to a C, talk about the quality and the accuracy and the detail and the perfection and the access to data in managing it. If you're presenting to a group, you do what I just said. You present high level first, end result, big picture, get them excited, nail the key points, and then go into more process and detail. And the reason you want to do that is the D's and I's won't pay attention as long as the S's and C's. They don't need to. You got to hit them hard, fast, with a big impression. If they start checking out or even leave the room, which will happen, they're turned on. They're leaving really excited about the offer. S's and C's, more patient, want to hear detail, want to hear process. So structure your presentation like that. And then, as a reminder, we gave you a presentation planner. So use the planner to choreograph and orchestrate who's going to do what at what stage, and to really make the presentation demo powerful. Okay, last thing, objection handling. I choose this image in objection handling because, unfortunately, salespeople have a tendency to get nervous and defensive and argue when people have objections. I think it's really important to remind ourselves that objections are not always bad. Right? If people have an objection, hopefully it's a sign of interest. If people have an objection, maybe it's a need for more clarification. If people have an objection, maybe they just want to make sure they're making the right decision. So it's not always a bad thing. Now, certainly we want to do everything we can during a selling cycle to have there be less objections, but we're always going to be there. So before we get into objections, I just want to position this. If we've done a good job selling, gotten to the right people, where we have strength, related to them well, done really strong questioning, planted seeds, and then presented a powerful solution, when we get to the end of the selling cycle, there'll be objections, but they'll be less vigorous, and hopefully they'll be within the context of wanting to do business with you. My theory is when you ask people for the close, they're going to be in three frames of mind. Frame of mind one is, don't even bother asking. You never should have even sold to me in the first place. The second frame of mind is, I'm open. I'm thinking about it. You're one of the contenders. And the third frame of mind is, I'm ready to roll. You've done such a good job. Our job as salespeople is to get them to stages 2 and 3, so that when we ask for the close, the objections are within that context. So, already talked about how most of us respond. We get nervous. We feel like there's a target on our head, and we get defensive. Well, there's a better way of doing it. And the better way is, first of all, don't freak. Be quiet and listen. Second way is to acknowledge it. And acknowledge it means thank them for raising it. So if somebody says, well, I'm concerned about your price, thanks for your candor. I'm concerned about your price, I appreciate you letting me know. Concerned about your price, you got to feel comfortable with the investment. It creates a comfortable environment. What you're trying to do is prevent the opposition and create an environment to talk. The next step is, can we talk about it? Piece of cake questioning means start on a very broad level, outside, and narrow down. So can I ask you some questions about this? Do you have any other concerns other than the price? Wonderful. May I ask you what you like about our solution? That we're still talking. Well, I love all the capability, I love the quality, I love your experience. Fantastic. So when we talk about the price, can you share with me where the concern is? And if we can address the concern, would you be open to moving forward? Now ask questions that not only understand their concern, but bring them to a response. And don't stop asking questions. You know, I used to play basketball. One of the things I was taught is you can't shoot it till you pass it 5 times. That should be kind of a rule in questioning. Don't stop asking questions too early. Finally, you got to respond, thank you, congratulations, this is what salespeople want to do, step 1. And then you get past it. So Mr. and Ms. So-and-so, have I answered your question? Do you have any other concerns? Do you feel comfortable with our price? Okay? So steps 1, 2, and 3, be quiet, listen, acknowledge, and different responses. Okay? Most salespeople do a direct response. Well, let me tell you why we're worth the price. Really good salespeople start to put it into a context, so they do an analogy. So an example of an analogy on price would be, Mr. and Ms. So-and-so, let me ask you a question, and I do this out of respect. You have an excellent offer. Your company is known as one of the best in the world. I myself use your offering, and you're not the least expensive. Why do people spend more money on your offer? What do you tell people when they say to you, you're too expensive? And then ultimately they're going to say quality and value and service, and then that gives you the right to say, well, that's exactly what we're selling you. Or in another analogy would be, you know, Mr. and Ms. So-and-so, I assume you have automobile or home insurance, right? Do you have the cheapest? Well, no. Well, why? Well, because you want to ensure you get the right thing when you need it. Well, again, think of us as an insurance package. And then give them the direct information. Another type of response is the big picture of the forest from the trees, which I'm going to show you a diagram of in a second. My favorite is the U-turn. Can't use it all the time. But the U-turn goes like this. So Mr. and Ms. So-and-so, want to say something, I want to say it for effect. The reason you're giving us to not go with us is price is not the reason you shouldn't go with us. It's the reason you should go with us. Because what that price is saying to you is that you're going to get everything you need. So you're concerned with our price being this much more. What I would urge you to do is go back to whoever else you're looking at and ask them why their price is so much less. Because that means something's missing. And you're always going to find out what's missing at the worst time, like when your executive is doing an executive presentation. And then, of course, it could be worse is something, again, you have to be careful with. But Mr. So the only thing that could be worse than paying more is paying less and not having what you need when you need it. Or having you call us back 6 months from now and say, hey, you know, John, what you told us was right. So you got to be careful with all of them. They all don't work properly. But I'm trying to offer is don't just give a direct response. Sometimes you have to condition it. So the big forest, big picture is their concern is represented by this little circle, and this big circle represents everything you're giving them. So what you're doing is saying, yes, your concern's legitimate, but if you put it into concept of the bigger picture, look what you're getting. And the forest from the trees is, there's a forest. Their concern is that money tree, but the forest behind it is everything you bring. And the U-turn in it could be worse is what I was talking about. And then finally, you got to confirm and trial close. You have to say, Mr. So-and-so, have we gotten past the objection? Does this answer it? Do you feel comfortable? If they say yes, great, let's go move forward. If they say no, can you share with me what we're missing? What else is going on? But I promise all of you that if you do all the right things selling, you're going to have objections that are going to be less strenuous, less vigorous, and people are going to be more willing to go with you. So I just want to wrap up and again put into context what we've been talking about. DISC is all about making people comfortable with you. It's a language. It's a language made up of pace, tone, and information. Pace people the way they are, whether they're fast or slow. Pace their tone. Are they outgoing, friendly? Are they more formal and reserved? Pace them with the amount of information they like or don't like. Create a comfortable and selling environment. Secondly, prospect or get access to power in the industries, applications where you are best suited. My experience in selling for 35 years is there's 3 that are always the best, and if you penetrate those and you're experts in those, you will make more money than you've ever made. Third step is dialogue with people, uncover what their priorities are, discover their buying process and their criteria. Integrate seeds with that, things about VBrick that will influence their thinking. So that when you get to the next step, which is to present or demo, you have the information you need, the relationship, and they've already opened up their mind to wanting to see you. And again, don't present the technology. Present the company and the technology within context of what they said they want, and always give the benefit. We want to give benefits. And then finally, when they have objections, hopefully they're less, and the objections are responding back to what they said was important to them. So, Mr. So-and-so, I understand money is important. If we take a look at the $100,000 addition we're asking you to pay in relation to the business goals and objectives, I hope you'll see that the value is worth it, and that you're comfortable with that. You're going to get what you want in the long run. Practice those. Make them sing. You'll be fantastic. Reach out to me anytime you like. It's my honor and pleasure to be working with you, and thank you so much.